join me in the pledge. There's like Johnny on the spot back there.
Very good.
All right, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for our land acknowledgement. The Tlingit people have been indigenous to this land for over 10,000 years. Gunakalish to the Tlingit people for their stewardship of the Tlingit since time immemorial and today. Okay, we do not have any visiting Rotarians. And we do have a guest, Melissa, from the city is in the back.
Hi, thanks for having me again. Melissa Henshaw, Public and Government Relations Director for the city. I'm just here to listen to Sitka Rotary.
Thank you. As always, you're welcome. Do we have any Rotary announcements? John?
Not much you think that we have been falling down on the job. The duck race has been working since July 5 at 12:01 a.m. when we started taking reserve numbers. And the goal is to get to the end of December with at least 3,000 numbers reserved out of our 6,000 and 156 business sponsors. So far, we cannot take a dime until January 1st when our permit goes active, but we can take commitments, and we've done that. We have a 98% conversion rate, and 2,973 numbers are reserved already, and 142 business sponsors. Picked up 13 business sponsors this week, so thanks to six people out of the 38 members have been doing all this for a little bit over 5 months now and doing a really good job, and I'm going to showcase them in the next couple weeks. Thanks.
Anything from anybody else?
I have a non-Rotarian
Okay.
announcement. Can I make that?
Sure.
On Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, the campus is going to be hosting a cruise boom film. What do we call it? Anyway, it's going to be here. Ellen Frankenstein and I are going to be moderating it, so I encourage you to come. Ellen has presented here, and I think we saw a clip of the film. The entire film is now ready for prime time, and it'll be showcasing next Wednesday. So,
What time?
6:30
6:30.
in room 229, the big room there. 6:30 on Wednesday, my wife's birthday. So
Right.
I celebrate my wife's birthday by not spending any time with her.
There you go.
She's coming to the show, though, right? No, okay.
All right, so just a reminder that next week we'll be meeting here on Monday instead of Tuesday. The district governor will be here. And then Monday evening, we'll be having a short board meeting, probably at around 5, and then we'll be having a fellowship starting at 6, and that's going to be out at Kari Lundgren's place out on Sawmill Creek, out off Sawmill Creek, and we'll send out directions. This will be kind of like a potluck type thing, just, you know, easy, something easy and good, bring it to eat. So you can do nothing elaborate, don't go, you know, crazy. Anyway, hopefully we'll see, I don't know, it'll probably rain, but if not, you know, she's got the fire pit, otherwise we can be inside, so it should work out. Also, I believe last week or the week before, I had forwarded everybody an email from the Salvation Army where they're looking for help with the baskets for Thanksgiving. I believe that's November 21st they're looking for help, so if anyone has time to do that, you can do that. They are also looking to us to maybe help with ringing the bell closer to Christmas. I'm not sure what they mean by closer to Christmas, but anyway, you should all have that email, so look at it if you haven't. Pull it out of your deleted that you probably immediately put it into. But anyway, so look at that. If you need it again, let me know, or just contact the Salvation Army and see what we can do to help them. And you can feel free to wear Rotarian clothing if you have it, or hats or whatever, while you're helping them. Let people know that we're helping out the community. And December 17th, I believe it is, that's the Saturday, will be our Christmas party at the Pioneer Home. So just keep that in your thoughts for now so that you guys can come and help us celebrate. And I believe that's all I have for announcements. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. So, we have Lily, who's working at Sitka Trailworks as a youth program director since January 2023. After successfully implementing the first summer of the Klinkadani Trailworks Camp, Lily is staying on at Trailworks as a programming director. In this role, she'll get to run youth programming, but also oversees the new volunteer program and seeks to offer more community programming for all ages on Sitka's trails. Lily's passionate about increasing access to outdoor spaces, and when she's not working at Trailworks, she works once a week at the Beak, sings in a local band, and helps out Eric Jordan on the fishing vessel Igata. And then Ben Huey, of course. Ben grew up in Sitka and worked on the Sitka Trailworks crew in high school before joining the Forest Service crew for 3 seasons. After college, Ben moved to Seattle for a trail crew job in the Cascades for a nonprofit, where he began a career in environmental policy. Ben studied policy and public administration in grad school and worked in DC before returning home during COVID to lead a CARES-funded reemployment program for Sitka Conservation Society. Ben joined Trailworks at the end of 2020 and became executive director 2 years ago. So let's welcome Ben and Lily.
Thanks for having us again. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint link so you don't only have to look at us and can look at some pretty pictures. Let's make sure we're sharing the screen. Do that. Play. I wanted to start by thanking Rotary again. Will that disappear? Let's see. That'd be annoying. Does anyone know how to get rid of that?
So you just have to push it up or down all the way.
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
it goes away completely.
We'll see. The Patty McCarr bench is in. It's been in this year. You turn off from the Harbor Mountain Road onto the new cross trail, and it's got this great view out over Mount Edgecombe, and it's a beautiful addition to the trail. We want to thank Rotary for that contribution to making that trail happen. And we wanted to tell you a little bit about how our youth program went this year, and to give you some updates on other projects, and then talk about the trail plan. Rotary's been involved in different ways in different parts of these programs, so I wanted to keep you in the loop on what we're doing and what we're thinking about doing. So I think next is you.
Yeah, so we had our first summer of the Klinkadani Trailworks Camp, and it was inspired by the SCORE program, which was led by Woody Widmark and the tribe a while ago in Sitka. But the mission of that program was just to get kids outside and have fun, and we really wanted to bring that back. And so we offered our camp in partnership with STA. We did a pilot 1-week program last summer, or 2 summers ago, and then this summer we were able to offer a 6-week programming. And the goals of our program were to support cultural education, because it was in partnership with SCA, and place and culture are so intertwined. We also wanted to promote community trails and trail maintenance, so we did trail maintenance activities with the kids. And then also just the same goals of SCORE, which is just to have fun outside with kids and allow them to feel good outside in that space, no matter what. And we were able to hire 2 16-year-old interns who actually go to Mount Edgecombe. That was hired through Lincoln and Haida's Youth Employment Services program, and they were here with us for 10 weeks, and they got to have like a training program where they got an AMZ Marine First Aid course. They got some trail building skills from Ben. We talked about bear safety and a lot of other things, and they got to do a 2-week like more intense trail crew program after the time with the middle schoolers was over, so they got a pretty wide range of professional experience for this field. We worked on projects on all the different land management agencies' land in Sitka. So in the National Park Service, we did a lot of programming with Totem Park. We went there 4 or 5 times throughout the summer. We did brush cutting and things like that to help out their maintenance staff, which was really fun. For the Forest Service, we went to a bunch of their trails. We did a sandy beach cleanup with Christina Tierman, who works at the Ocean Conservancy and is based in Sitka. And We also went to all the state parks places. We did some drainage clearing in Mosquito Cove. I don't know if anyone's been on it recently, but sometimes the water stuff gets clogged, and so you have to get out the little sticks so that the water can flow. And the kids really liked that one because they got to think about like how a trail is built and how the water can impact the sustainability of a trail. And then we also worked on some of the city sites. We got to go to Blatchley and trim the salmonberry bushes and everything, and also play kickball, which was a big highlight for the kids. But yeah, we went and did projects on more sites than this. We went somewhere every day and did a varying trail work activity. In addition to that, they got to participate in cultural activities. So we had Rose Demmer come and teach beading once a week. So that's an example of the daisy chain bracelets that they made. And we harvested a lot of berries and tea and things like that we then donated back to Rose or Chuck Miller or people from STA to present at their Kuweek ceremonies this fall to give as gifts to the guests. So what the kids directly harvested did go back into the community, which was a really important lesson for them and a really fun thing to participate in for everyone too. Over the 6 weeks, we served 17 youth, and 75% of them are excited about it if it's happening again. And we had tons of agency and community partnerships from the Ocean Conservancy and SCA to 4-H and so many more, and made this camp possible, which is really exciting. And if you want to hear more about it, our cultural coordinator, Kushit Sienna Reed, created a story map that's available on our website, and you can like click on all of the sites that we went to and see what we did and learn. Oh, is that touchscreen? Oh, and you can learn more about like the sites, and there's a bunch of photos and stuff. So we can send that link to you all after the meeting too, so you can explore it more. But that's the youth
Cool.
program.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited about our youth programming because I see a need in our federal land management agencies for local expertise. So many of the people who are running the Forest Service, the National Park Service, come from out of town, they stay a couple years, they leave and get a promotion elsewhere. And then when we're, as the city or Sitka Trailworks, are trying to make these partnerships with these federal land management agencies that have so much control of our community because so much of our land is federally managed. People don't have context, people don't have history, they don't have relationships, and we have to start over. So our ultimate goal is these kids are learning about how to steward public lands, see career opportunities, and we're creating a pipeline of workers who can fill positions and become the next district ranger or superintendent of our national park. So that's a long-term goal. While we were doing the youth program, we were also getting out there with lots of other work. We work in partnership with the Forest Service really closely. We had some funding from the National Forest Foundation. In 2022, we helicoptered in a bunch of gravel and lumber to the Salmon Lake Trail. And we had some cost savings because we actually worked with the City Electric Department, we worked with NSERA to share mobilization costs for the helicopter from Ketchikan. And with the savings, we hired some Isle Marine boats this year to take folks out and help haul the gravel. It would be a huge undertaking for just a small Forest Service crew, but you get many hands, and we spread over 30,000 pounds of gravel, which is incredible. They come in these big helicopter bags that were dropped down through the old growth trees, and each of those is about a ton, so 1 cubic yard of gravel. And between an outer coast work party where we had like 30 students and staff, pouring down rain, miserable. I thought everyone would get hypothermia and quit, but they just like kept moving the whole day and didn't stop and moved a ton of gravel. And then we had kind of an open to the public event, a smaller boat, had about 20 kids. It was sunny. Everybody was like, it was a lot of the AmeriCorps crowd, and they'd never been out to the trail, and they were stoked to be working. We got what we needed to get done really quickly, and everybody swam in the lake. It was amazing. It was like top tier volunteer experience. So that was a fun time. We also worked with the Forest Service to build a new viewpoint trail on Harbor Mountain. If you haven't been up there recently, there's this really short 200-foot long path, but if you've got grandparents visiting, elderly folks with less mobility who want to go experience the mountains, see the alpine, see the views, this is a really good spot, because a lot of the other spots there's either stairs or you have to climb the trail to the viewpoint. And this provides that experience, some seating areas, but really close. And it was a path that had been worn down. People had been going to look from this little viewpoint, but just over the alpine vegetation had been all muddy, and it's like kind of worn path. People go wider and wider, and it just kind of all gets gross. And so worked with Island Enterprises on the construction, and then we did revegetation along the sides of the trail for National Public Lands Day with a bunch of volunteers in partnership with the Forest Service. That day, National Public Lands Day, was the launch of a new program that we have with the Forest Service. They are interested in supporting volunteerism on the forest and elsewhere, and so we created an agreement for a 3-year time frame, fiscal year time frame for the feds. So we're now in fiscal year 2024, and over this next year and the following, we'll be hosting more volunteer events and trying to build a right-sized volunteer program for Sitka. I think really often the model that's used is big corporate volunteer event, you got like 30 people, but since you have that many people, there's not very many tasks that will work for that group. You gotta either like haul gravel or wood chips, or it's like very limited in the type of tasks you can coordinate a large group for, unless you have very skilled Rotarians at Goddard and they know what they're doing. And we are interested in finding a program where we take returnees. There are people here with a lot of skill sets. They've been in the woods for a lot of time. It's not your average city volunteer. And so we want to cultivate those skills and create a core group of folks who are knowledgeable and can give back and do regular events where we're tackling maybe slightly more complex projects, which really takes the burden off of our agencies in the maintenance capacity. As opposed to sometimes volunteer events are like, oh my gosh, I've got to entertain 30 people for 4 hours, and I've got to get 30 shovels, and it's going to take me more work than it would be to do it ourselves. So we are launching this program. The Forest Service was able to fund like a third to a half of what we think that this program will cost for this year. And so we're going around and starting to find other sources. We've asked, the city actually chipped in. That was our pitch for the city operating grant. So the city chipped in $7K for that, and they are submitting to, no, that's different. So many grants. You know that game, Melissa. Yeah, so we're interested in bringing more of a maintenance capacity. Over the last 5+ years, Sitka Rotary has been in a major construction phase. We now have a cross trail that extends almost the entire length of the road system, incredible, and we want to invest more in maintenance in the coming years and reduce that burden for our agencies and engage more citizens in this work. So, meanwhile, we've been creating the vision for the next 20 years of both maintenance and development. This document holds the input of thousands of Sitkans' comments. We started over 2 years ago now on this planning process. In the spring of 2022, we had over 10% of Sitkans respond to our first survey. We had people tell us what are the types of trails they're looking for, what are the ways that they get out today, what are the barriers that they have from getting outdoors, and open-ended comments about what they'd like to see in the future. We took all those comments, over 100, I think on the next slide. Yeah, might be a little harder in the back. We had over 100 concepts at the beginning, people just throwing out all their ideas. And based on some initial feasibility assessment, can you put a trail on the top of the Bear Mountain Ridge? No. Cut half of those. We got down to under 60 trail proposals. We had a trail committee of both our board members and kind of professional citizens, like the Barth Hamburg. Jeff came to a few meetings. We had some other like local guide operators, people who worked in this space, agency folks reviewing these ideas. We came up with goals for the plan around health and economic development, equity, trying to make sure everybody has access to these trails, and reviewed those other concept according to those goals, reduced the plans further, and had a set of a couple dozen ideas we took back to the public last winter, into December through January, so we had a map and a short sentence about each trail proposal that people could click through. We had over 500 people respond to that. It took like 20 minutes. It was fairly robust, and you could leave a comment on each idea. So over 500 people left over 3,000 comments, which I can attest I did actually read on a very long sailboat ride. And we took those ideas and eliminated, based on the feedback, eliminated a few more, and what's left is a set of proposals about how we can improve our existing trail system and make some enhancements, some expansions, and create the robust network that we want. Interestingly, the top voted trail proposal, every blurb in the survey had a slider 0 to 100. How beneficial do you think this trail would be for the community? And walking and biking improvements on Halibut Point Road scored higher than anything else. And I think it proves that those in-town connections and like the everyday walking and biking opportunities are gonna make the best improvements for our community. So obviously that is an enormous multi-decade project, and we'll be working with the state. But we're already having conversations with the DOT, and it'll be a while to get into the state transportation improvements plan, and who knows, but hopefully taking a phased approach and starting maybe from the cruise terminal to the ferry terminal, filling that leg in, getting a separated pathway there, and then work our way back towards into town. There could be a way to chip off some of that would make a big benefit for a lot of people. A lot of other ideas out there too. Just a quick preview. This is Yaw Drive, so the Indian River Trailhead, Indian River subdivision. You walk up Yaw Drive, and you can take a left on the modern cross trail. You take a right to this connector to the Indian River, and if it's rained in the last 2 weeks, then it's probably just a mud puddle, and you're walking on the wood on the side, and then you get to some steps, and they're kind of falling apart, and then it gets really narrow and windy, and then you get to the Indian River. That's a maintenance headache for the city, so Public Works asked us to elevate this as a priority. If we could bring this up to a higher standard of construction, it would reduce their maintenance burden and provide a better trail connection for folks. Another one we've been thinking about and came from a recommendation at NSERA. If you bike out the Green Lake Road to Bear Cove, where the Metavici Hatchery is, if you don't know where that trail is, you end up wandering around a housing development and looking around heavy machinery and seeing where you could cross the creek. And there used to be a fallen log that somebody had hacked a bridge out of, but that got washed out in 2020. And so now it's just kind of an open stream, and depending on water levels, you may or may not be able to get across. If we moved the trail to the north side of the stream, built a short connector, you could put a trailhead with a sign and a bike rack, and nobody'd have to wander through the NSERA facilities, and you'd have access to what is actually some of the most stunning terrain in Sitka. This part of Baranof Island, I think, is the most spectacular, huge granite cliffs, but a lot of people have never seen it because it's kind of hidden, tucked away, hard to get to. So a short change for hopefully a large impact. Still plenty of feasibility questions. This is a really dynamic slope. There's been regular slides, and so we'd have to figure out what our approach to managing those risks would be. But small change, big impact was what we were hoping for in a lot of these proposals, including this 5K loop idea. Jeremy Strong from the high school approached and said, look, we just can't keep going back to Totem Park. The cruise season gets longer and longer. There's more people. It's not a standard route. We can't host a state tournament because the turns are too tight and the trail's not wide enough. So our kids are competing with this expanding cruise season. But if we made a short connection from the back of the Performing Arts Center over to, oh, that's a touch screen, once again, back to Tilson Street, you could either use Kim Sham or create a parallel trail along the bottom of Kim Sham, and then create a parallel from Fearson to the back of the Sitka High. With a small add, you get a figure-8 loop that you can create a lot of different distances out of. You can have an ending and starting point for your 5K on the Kimsham ball fields. Everybody's watching. You got spectator space. You've got a great sporting arena. You're concentrating your sports facilities into one space. And again, small difference, but provides now a walking and dog walking loop. People responded in the trail survey that they love loops. You don't want to go out and back and decide to turn, and you just want to keep going that loop, and we can take another loop if you want, but depending on how the conversation's going. So we're looking at a lot of proposals. This would have to be aligned with city housing development plans. So Amy Ainsley and I have been talking about, and the narrative, there's a narrative associated with each of these proposals in the trail plan. And so we make sure to note that any development would need to be cohesive with and adherent to any future housing. So we can build this in a way that wouldn't impact or maybe there's subdivision along the side of it or a buffer, but we want to make sure that it fits with any future development in the area. And then there's the big far-fetched, cool pie in the sky ideas that maybe in 10 years, this is what our community wants. They're not going to be our priority in the next couple of years, but we want to be able to create that vision for the Sitka in the future. We don't know what expansions will be required. This is the Stargavin Valley, so the shooting range, Nelson logging roads. The Nelson logging roads head into the south tributary of the Stargavin River Valley, and the Harbor Mountain and Gavin trails come together at that hut. If you walk out that back ridge and drop off, you're in Stargavin Valley. And by creating this connection, which would be no small feat, you can walk from downtown to Stargavin on single track trails. You get on the Baranoff Street Connect, you walk up Gavin, you walk around, you walk down to the Stargavin, and there's an additional proposal for a hiking trail up to Stargavin Ridge. And we've connected our trail system eachly in a loop, because then you can walk back on the cross trail. All of a sudden we have long distance trail networks, which is a lack in Sitka. People ask for, I want a backpacking trail, I want to go longer distances, not just 4 miles up Indian River and back is the longest trail. So a diversity of offerings we have encapsulated in the trail plan right now. What we're doing right now, this is a draft, so we're chatting with folks who gave input in the past, and we're working with the land management agencies, governments, to get a final review, and the final plan will have a memorandum of understanding between all the land managers, saying we're not committing any funding necessarily, but we do commit to work together on these broader goals. And so this is how the last plan was so successful. We had the Forest Service, the Park Service, the state parks, the city all said, this is our shared vision, and we want to work together to make it happen. Then the 2003 plan was taken by Deborah Lyons and Charles Horan, and there's a photo with them, and Ted Stevens and Lisa Murkowski holding the trail plan, and Sitka's got millions and millions of dollars because this is a ready-to-go grant application, and it's a pitch that you can take to decision makers, you can take to the state, and you have the community buy-in shown already, so when that opportunity arises, you don't have to do all that pre-work, you're ready to go. So we're excited about the next steps, and we're working with the different partners to finalize. The Rotary Foundation chipped in early and generously for this planning process. It took a lot of work. We've been hiring graphic designers and cartographers, and we really thank you for that contribution that made this possible. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. What do you want to know about? Yeah.
Questions?
We are working also on a story map for this, so that soon you'll be able to browse online. We have links to a digital version of this on our website. You can go check it out, flip through it, the PDF version of it, and then we'll have a more interactive map out hopefully soon. Yeah. John?
So I walk on the Thimbleberry Lake Trail
Yeah.
quite a bit. And it runs along the power line, which
Yep.
was just a rough cat track, I think. And now the surface is really knobby, bouldery, like 6-inch minus. And I was wondering if there's anything users could do to help improve the surface. And then it occurred to me that if there was a pile of gravel at the parking lot,
You'd pick up a bucket and walk up?
either, I don't know what, or not a 5-gallon bucket, but little buckets, or even paper bags that people could carry up there and drop on the trail. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
sort of silly,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
I like that idea.
access to that, especially with the parking lot and for
Yeah.
younger and older folks, it's a great
Right,
trail.
right, accessible, but accesses to a lake. Yeah, that trail, the Thimbleberry to Heart Lake connection was built because it was in the 2003 trail plan as an idea. Yeah, but it needs some top cap, I'm hearing. Yeah. Yeah, what's up there?
Ben, at my physical condition and at my age, I can't walk trails anymore. I tried it. Could you use a four-wheeler on any trails?
The Stargavin Valley trails are open to ATV access, yeah. Yeah, that's what you want to get out and do? What about the sea walk, Dan?
How's that?
Do you like the sea walk?
I used to. I walked one over and down to the other place. Way too much for my body, and it said,
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the ideas that came up in the planning process that didn't make it in final form in this was a loop of Swan Lake. Starts at the senior center and you walk up to the T-docks and you loop the whole lake. Would provide access to folks with different mobility levels, but only part of that's public land. The lake's north side of Lake Street and Lakeview Drive is private, and those properties actually go into the lake. And so we have a short connector from Moeller to Lake Street, all public land. The north end of Swan Lake is all municipal property. And so you can make a little connection that would get folks on their little walking loop here on Lake Street, and instead of going up around to the high school and then on Cascade and then back down to Moeller, kids could go straight from Sitka High down to Moeller Field, and it's a beautiful, immersive, and natural experience because we know that when that lake freezes, it's our central park. But the rest of the year, there's no way to interact with the lake. There's like no other access points, and that T-dock's nice, but it's not really in vegetation. You're next to the road. It's not very like an immersive experience like it could be. And so a short nature trail at the north end of the lake would start that, and then I don't know, maybe in the next plan you work through easements with the private property owners and we build the Central Park loop on Swan Lake. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah? What's up?
Over my years, I've heard chatter about building a road across the island. And that I understand is a no-go now. This could be somehow backup for people to get across the street or across the island if they should choose to do so. Are you going to have a trail that goes across the island?
The route that I've taken is mostly glaciated, and glaciers are hard to build roads on, is my understanding. So I don't think that one's feasible, in my opinion. Tunnel. That was the idea, wasn't it, actually? Wasn't that the proposal like 20 years ago? They were going to tunnel the, I don't know.
It still gets brought up all the time.
Yeah. For all the commuters from Baranoff Warm Springs. Yeah.
Well,
You step back, you speak into the microphone, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
We've
Where is
talked
the-
about,
Thank you.
or some folks have talked about putting a ferry terminal on the other side of Baranoff Island.
Yeah,
That's kind of
or-
what that's coming from.
Or Rodman, right?
Yeah.
There's an easement to Rodman. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, the Callian, we also have a final chapter with a bunch of other recommendations, things that didn't quite make it into the, as a project for a physical infrastructure proposal, but we know need a little more work. For instance, I'm working on a collaborative trail maintenance issue reporting system, so that you're out on the trail and you see a downed tree. Do you have to figure out which landowner you're on and then who their phone number is? It'd be better if you just had an app, you took a photo and you uploaded it. And so there are systems out there that do that, and we're working on building that out right now. A question about commercial use. How do we as a community look at guided and unguided commercial use on all our public trails? Right now it's segmented. The Forest Service does their permits and the city does their permits. But as a member of the Parks and Rec Committee, we don't really have a good sense of cumulative volumes. And so trying to get a better understanding across the trail system, what trails are getting hit too hard, what should we set aside for non-commercial use, just residents only kind of zoning approach. And the Catland Valley is one area where we're gonna need some attention to in the future. Like, we're gonna have a road there, and the state is gonna give us the end of a road. No restroom, no trails, no kiosks. People will park and have to decide what they want to do. In other scenarios where we've had that, with just a road ending in an undeveloped natural area, you often have a bunch of pallet fires and user-built ATV trails. If we get a little ahead of the curve and do some planning about that valley, there's still a lot of uncertainty around what that's going to look like, so we couldn't propose specific trails yet, but in the coming years, before the opening in 2025 is what I've heard, we should have a little more of a plan about what's going to happen there. Yeah. Exciting stuff.
So a few years ago, there were some folks promoting a paddling trail through Southeast. Is that still
Great
a thing?
question. The sea
Hit your 70s, you can start working on that.
Actually, gonna start it next year.
Really?
Because remember the Southeast Alaska Sustainability Strategy, Secretary Vilsack threw a bunch of money at sustainability in the region when they made the roadless rule change in the Biden administration, and they were really open to feedback at the point in time, and we threw a bunch of ideas at the wall, and they were interested in this idea of marine trails. And so we got a little bit of funding. We're gonna look into a little bit more and try to make a couple itineraries, identify some sites. I think the key thing here will be, how can we identify sites that aren't currently being used by skiff drivers and open up anchorages that only paddlers can get to, so we don't have that user conflict. We don't want people going to the Chai Cheese and Strawberry Beach and sending a bunch of tourists there. We're gonna like orient them towards different locations, and maybe you clear like a little flat spot, maybe a tent site, maybe a bear hang, really minimal infrastructure to begin with. Identify, here's a half-day trip, here's a full-day trip, here's a multi-day kayak, here's where you can get your water, here's where you can pull your boat out of off the shore, and all of a sudden we have a 100-mile trail system with very little investment. People didn't used to build huge trails here. I think if folks went around on canoes, it makes way more sense. And so I'm very interested in that concept, actually. Yeah, there's one up in Seward, there's one down in Seattle. Maine has a huge paddling trail network. Okay, I better shut up.
You're good. Are we good? Any more questions?
Ben, do you ever have any relationship with the Dream Cruises from Allen Marine or something, where they could let some people off someplace and they could walk home or whatever, rather than from the ferry terminal to town? Can that be part of it, or is it part of it now?
We haven't proposed, it's particularly that. I'm always chatting with those folks, and I got input from Al Marine. They're always looking for trails in between here in Juneau. The Lake Eva Trail is kind of the only show in town for those small boats to drop passengers, to have a day trip, shore excursion during that passage, and that trail's overcrowded. And so they want us to plan and build a trail in northeast Barinhof Island. But then so few Sitkans use it, our board was like, do we really want to prioritize that? Like, is that our job? And so we have another recommendation. Like, we do need to identify another trail in the Peril Straits area to reduce some of the overcrowding, but that TBD, we didn't have like a slam dunk option.
I don't have a question, just a statement. just an expression of appreciation for what you guys do. As a person, my wife and I spend a lot of time on those trails. And
Yeah.
we think about Sitka and what we love about Sitka. The trail network that we have
Yeah.
is one of our top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So appreciate the good work that you guys do.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of people put in.
Yeah, there's a lot,
of
and I know
time.
you guys represent a lot of other people.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
It makes a difference, one of the shining lights of the community.
Yeah, I think it makes a huge impact on quality of life.
It occurs to me, you must be about, the organization must be about at your 30-year anniversary. Where are you?
I think
Because
we
it
got
came
our
out of
IRS
Bill Close.
papers in '99.
What's that?
We got our IRS paperwork in '99. I think the organization started in the mid-'90s.
I think it started out of the mill closure.
Yes.
Because some of the funding came out
Stevens.
of that transition stuff.
Stimulus money. Yeah, Lisa Bush and Charles Horan and the works, the job center guy put a proposal to the city to use some of the Stevens stimulus money from it.
Okay, so that means you get to pick whenever your anniversary.
Yeah, yeah,
I think 25 years sounds about right.
yeah, yeah. It's been around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a reminder, next week, we're meeting on Monday at noon. We'll have the fellowship that evening. You'll all get emails, read them. So you'll have directions on how to go and what to bring if you're able to join us. It's always nice to have a fuller house when the district governor is here, because he's taking the time out of his schedule. They do have a budget that they never can stick to. So, I mean, and, you know, they're taking time off work. If they're still working, or they're taking time away from their lives to keep us informed and to interact with us and get to know us. So I appreciate everyone who can be at the meetings. The week after that, so I think it's November 21st, we'll be back to Tuesday meetings, and that week is going to be Brianna, and I believe, I'm not sure if Ben's going to be with her as well. They both went up to the cubing competition this last weekend, and they're going to do a PowerPoint about that. So hope to see you guys then, and we'll tell you what's coming next after that. So you guys have a good week, and we'll see you Monday.
Good.